And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic. And today I got none other than the Indy God, the king of the death match, the king of the sea, one of the hosts of the Major Figure Wrestling podcast, Matt Cardona. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm very grateful to have you. It's a privilege. I wanted to have you on there. I was on Instagram and I read one of your posts, and that's when I DM'd you and asked you again if you'd be interested in coming on. And you were talking about how, you know, a lot of people, when they get released from the WWE, they change their name and they go to the Indys, and that's usually where they go to die. Where I think a lot of us, if you ask me personally, like a lot of us have seen what you've done since you've left the WWE. And I want to say two things before I ask you the question. One thing I think you did tremendously is, yeah, there's still a little bit of Zack Ryder there because I'll always be a part of you because I was an exaggerated version of yourself, but you fully reinvented yourself. You're like this whole new person as Matt Cardona. And two, one thing I think you did fantastic that a lot of people probably don't give you enough credit for is I think for a lot of us, when you were in the WWE, like we might have seen you as like a WWE lifer. So when you did get released, it wasn't like you went back to the independents with the name that you already made there, but you went there as someone where everyone's like, oh, like, how is Zack Ryder going to survive independence? And you absolutely killed it. So that being said, my question for you is, what was your mentality and what did you do different that people should know?
Well, that's a loaded question.
It is. That's what I want to start
with. So yeah, I put out that post and I said something like, you know, years ago when you were released from WWE, you would change the spelling of your name and you would go to the independents where your career would go to die, right? And that's true, and that's unfortunate, right? And guys like Drew McIntyre, guys like Cody Rhodes, they changed that. There are two perfect examples of going to the independents, reinventing themselves, and then going back. When I got released, it was an interesting time. We were living in the very beginning of the pandemic, right? So there were no independents to even do. And if there were, social distancing, we're in the mass. And like you said, fuck, I even thought I was a WWE lifer.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be there forever. I thought, you know, listen, my history there, well documented, highs and lows. I thought, all right, I'll do a bunch of BS for a while, then I'll get thrown a bone, then some more BS, then another bone, then eventually I'll be a producer or something, you know?
Yeah.
But when that April 15th morning came around and there was this mass video sent to everybody from Vince McMahon saying there was going to be cuts, the writing was on the wall, right? Especially a year prior, you know, when AEW, I'm sure WWE won't admit this, but when AEW was starting, they pretty much locked down everybody, offered everybody brand new deals, 5-year deals, and for great money. I did not sign that contract. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my career, and I lived with that anxiety for a full year where I'd go to TV and Matt Cardona, who was the head of talent relations at the time, we'd be going back and forth, we'd be negotiating for a full year. Well, I guess not a full year because the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
It went to the Thunderdome or whatever. I didn't even get brought to those Thunderdome things. And then the decision was made for me ultimately. Let's say there was no pandemic. My contract would have been up in that August, I believe, July or August. So my fear that morning was, holy shit. Like I see Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins released, Heath released, Good Brothers. I'm like, where's my phone call? Right. And I'm thinking, oh shit, like, are they going to let me just sit and rot until August? I'm like, no, fire me today, please. Fire me. So at that point I wanted to get fired, right? Because I knew, all right, I gotta figure out what this next chapter is. I didn't know what it was going to be. I had my pro wrestling tee store ready to go. And as soon as they get released, I said, let's make that baby live. But like I said, there were no independents at the time. I did a little bit of AEW. That didn't work out, obviously. But it wasn't until I started with Impact where I tried to, like you said, who is Matt Cardona post WWE, right? I didn't even know. I didn't know. I didn't know. And for years in the WWE, like I stopped wearing the headband, the glasses, all that goofy shit. But you can't really portray yourself in the way you want to be presented. I mean, you can to a certain extent, but I don't have the pencil. I don't write the show.
Yeah, there's a lack of creative control over your own.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did as much as I could to portray myself in a different light. And to some degree, it did work. You know, I win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. There's no fucking headband. There's no glasses. There's a jacked 32-year-old man or whatever it was, 30 years old. I don't even know what I was that time. 2016. I was 29, 30. Anyway, I knew I needed to change once I hit the independents, but what would that change me? You can't just turn heel on the independents, right? You can't. How do you reinvent yourself in the indies? I knew I had to do it. I didn't know how. And this is a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's what I wanted. And to piggyback off of what you just said, though, do you feel like you kind of, because people saw you as like the WWE guy, like that helped you get a little heat in terms of being like that heel on the independents?
Okay, well, that brings us to GCW. That brings us to the night that I was a druid and I laid out Nick Gage. And that's when everything changed, because I was presented with the idea to do a couple shows with GCW, wrestle Nick Gage in a death match. And I'll be honest, my knee-jerk reaction was absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm not having a death match with this fucking guy who's on dark side of the ring, who just like sent David Arquette to the hospital. There's no fucking way I'm doing this. And then I took a step back and I realized, you know what? This will create some buzz. I could not anticipate the amount of buzz it would create. I mean, because fast forward that night, me versus Nick Gage, an independent show in Atlantic City, New Jersey, because of streaming, because of the internet, because of social media, it trends #1 on Twitter over a UFC pay-per-view in the Olympics. That's fucking unheard of.
Yeah.
And that night changed my whole career. Obviously, the GCW fans hated me, hated the guy from WWE coming in and beating their deathmatch king. And then it was a snowball effect where I'd go to random indies and maybe like 25% of the fans would boo me, and then 50%, and then 75%, and then 100% middle fingers in my face. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I knew that's what I needed. I knew I was going to run with this momentum. I knew that I would do whatever I could to keep this buzz going, because it's all about moments and chasing that buzz, at least for me, right? Like, okay, that death match was great. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
And then I get to the next moment. Okay, that was great. Now what? And I have no problem working my ass off for everything that I accomplish. But that was kind of the mindset post the release. Like, I knew I needed to change, didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And I don't want to say the GCW opportunity fell in my lap, but when it was right in front of me, I knew I had to capitalize.
No, 100%. You brought up Cody earlier, and I was going to mention, like, it is true. Like, your story is kind of similar to the way Cody and Drew took the indies after they got released or left the WWE.
Yeah, like I put that post out, and I see some people, Cody did it first, or Drew McIntyre. Not once in that post did I say, I am the first person to ever. No, I said it can be different. It can be different if you work your fucking ass off, because there are people who were released the same day as me, who have been released since, who haven't done jack shit. And you know what?
True.
I have, as Scott Steiner would say, I have no sympathy, because they're not doing the work. They're not busting their ass. I have no sympathy for them.
Yeah.
No sympathy at all.
So my question is, I'm from our side of the fence, it seems like you and Cody have a great friendship, and you guys have been running around the same clique for years now. Was he someone that gave you any advice when you first got released? Was that someone you reached out to and kind of he was like, you could probably do this? And what was that?
Cody, Cody right away put me in contact with his agent, gave me some great advice. But like in the wrestling business, if a producer or an agent is giving you feedback on a match, sometimes that advice doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And I realized I don't want an agent. I don't need somebody doing my bookings. I want to be in the trenches. I want to be the guy knowing the numbers. I want to be the guy doing the negotiating. I want to be the guy in control. So Cody set me up for sure. Got me that AEW cup of coffee run, and I'm grateful for that. Didn't work out. At the time, I'll admit, I was bummed out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, now what? Looking back, blessing in disguise. If I would have signed with AEW then, I'd be on fucking Dark right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think
no
you need
offense,
to have that.
no offense to those
Yeah.
guys. No offense to those guys.
Yeah.
That's not what I want. I was
Yeah.
already that guy in WWE. You know?
Yeah.
I want to be in control of my own destiny, control my own fate, and I'm busting my fucking ass. And yeah, is the Indy God a gimmick? Yeah, but it's also not.
No, and I believe in, and you know what? That's something I think a mentality a lot of people should have is not everything that doesn't go as planned is the wrong thing. Sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise. You might not see it right away. It might be a couple of months, it might be a year, a couple of days, but you'll see that silver lining eventually, as long as you put in the work and you keep grinding and you stay motivated. It's not just gonna fall on your lap, but like you gotta work to do. And I think you've definitely done that. Your wife, Chelsea Green, shout out to Vancouver. She's back in the WWE. Yes. So it does leave the question to a lot of people. And this is just like, you know, is there potential that you might eventually go back there one day? Is that something you're open to?
Wow, you're asking a lot of loaded questions, so this is going to be long-winded. All right, so let me say this first. When I got fired from WWE, even now, what's the date today? It's Wednesday, March 22nd as we record this. Even today.
Yeah.
I don't do what I do with the mindset of, oh, what can I do to get back to WWE? Or what can I do to have AEW notice me? No, that's not what I'm trying to do. But I would be lying if I said I never wanted to wrestle at Madison Square Garden again, or I never wanted to have a WrestleMania moment again, or I never wanted to walk into Walmart and see my fucking Mattel Elite on the shelves. Of course I do.
Yeah.
Of course I do. But I'm going to find my path back there. And Chelsea Green's back there now. And when she got that offer, it wasn't even a discussion. She is a crucial part of my act on the Indies, a crucial part. She had to go back. Yeah. She did not have a cup of coffee there. She had the little Keurig pod put into the machine. You didn't press brew, right?
Yeah.
She had to go back, and she's absolutely killing it now. I'm so proud of her to see her on Monday Night Raw. They bring her to SmackDown. Maybe she'll have a WrestleMania match. I am so, so proud of her. But it's not my time to go back yet.
100%.
Now,
and I agree.
If I got a 203 number, if a 203 number called me right now, of course I'd have a discussion. Of course I would have a conversation. Anyone who says otherwise is fucking lying.
100%.
Right.
And I'm happy she's back there too. She is killing it, and she didn't get to have that cup of coffee last time. I'm glad she's having it right now.
Yes.
I'm hoping she'll be on WrestleMania this year. It looks like it's heading that way. I'm going to bring her up again in a couple of minutes because we're going to switch gears. But one last question about this WWE thing. And this is more of a preference thing. We've already talked about how there really isn't that much creative control of what.
I think I know what you're going to ask. And I'll
would you want to go?
Zack Ryder is dead.
Okay. Because I was like, do you want to come back? There's Matt Cardona.
He's dead. He's dead. And I am so grateful, forever grateful for my time in WWE. And if I never go back, I'm proud of what I accomplished there as Zack Ryder, the moments I had there, the highs, the lows. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything, right? But he's dead. That's it. He's dead. Matt Cardona is bigger than Zack Ryder. If I were to go back, listen, I don't think it's my choice either way. But if it were, it would have to be as Matt Cardona.
Yeah, like that would be part of the conversation you would have, I believe.
Yes.
And it's happened in the past, right? We've seen Razor come back as Scott Hall.
I use that example all the time. Yeah. Razor didn't come back with the Hey Chico, he came back as Scott Hall.
Diesel come back as Nash. Yes. They tried the Hollywood thing.
And
even
listen,
Cody,
I'm not saying I'm as big as the fucking.
No, for sure.
Anyways, but it has been.
But even like Cody came back as the Cody he was on the Independents and in AEW. He didn't come back as Stardust as the Cody.
And let's give some props to Cody Rhodes, who lately has been throwing some shade at me on the internet. But I'll put him over. What he has done recently, unprecedented. First of all, being the first guy to jump from AEW to WWE. There can only be one first, right? There can only be one first.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's brought his entire look, music, logo, that has never been done in wrestling history. Never.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented. And I give him all the props in the world for having the vision to do that.
No, 100%. And I think it's that's why I think it's possible. And I actually want to see Matt Cardona show up in the WWE if that does happen in the future. Switching gears a little bit, the one thing we have in common, and I've always appreciated, is that we're both big Macho Man fans. I said I was gonna bring up Chelsea quickly because I think it's like every time you and Chelsea are doing your thing on the Indies, I'm like, oh, Matt must be living his dream with his Macho Man Elizabeth kind of shit going on, which
that's right.
That's awesome, and I'm very glad you got to do that. But it would be remiss if I didn't ask you, like, what's your favorite Macho Man match or moment? Like, what drew you into the Macho Man?
Oh man, I mean, the Macho Man was somebody who, we use this term now in the Major Wrestling podcast, toyetic, colorful gear, always looked like a superstar. I absolutely love that. Favorite match? I mean, I guess Mega Powers Explode. I was so young, but I was so invested in that. Like my two favorite guys, now they're breaking up. They're fighting over Liz. I absolutely loved it. As silly as it may seem, I loved the wedding, the SummerSlam 91 wedding. I was there. Chelsea Green and I got to almost recreate that wedding.
That was GCW
awesome. Homecoming last year.
That was awesome.
Which was really, really cool. But now, now that my Elizabeth has gone on to WWE, I found my sensational Sherry in Steph Delander.
You know what? I made that comparison in my head when I was scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, oh, this is probably his Sherry era now.
That's right. I found my sensational Steph Delander.
Yeah.
But to touch on her real fast, like I knew when Chelsea left, I knew I needed somebody. First of all, you can never replace Chelsea, especially because she's my goddamn wife.
You can never replace Elizabeth, so it's understandable.
Right.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed something. I knew I needed someone, and I knew I needed a girl. And I wasn't, I'm not going to say I was looking everywhere, but I was keeping my eye open for somebody. And then I was just in Australia for World Series Wrestling. I saw Steph Delander. I said, holy shit, this girl's 6 feet taller. She should kick my fucking ass, piercings all over her face.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, Chelsea, do you mind if I ask this girl if she wants to be my heater? And then once she said yes, once she gave me the green light, I talked to Steph. And then we did Australia. She came and helped me and Brian Myers. We did GCW. We just did the ECW arena, and we got more bookings coming up. So we're going to run with that for a while.
No, and it's super cool because like you're right, like even like aesthetically, like that's your sensational Sherry compared to your Elizabeth, right. So it makes sense.
Absolutely. I know what I'm doing here, folks.
No, clearly, and also that one gear that you rocked.
I'm learning from the best.
When you remade the Macho King crown and everything, that one look you had that one time, like that was dope. That's one of my favorite looks that you've done as well. What is your most expensive prized Macho Man possession? Because we know you're a collector of figures and everything cool.
Woo!
I'm going to be very jealous whatever you show me, but what is your most prized Macho
I don't
Man?
have anything I don't have anything that I could actually pull on screen right now. Two things that I have. Well, one, this is a unique item that I've since sold. It was the Macho Machine. It was like this workout machine from the early 90s. I bought it during the pandemic, or maybe it was right before the pandemic. And then I got it. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? And it just sat collecting dust in my garage for years. I have since sold it. But I think the most expensive Macho Man item I have is a unreleased Hasbro Macho Man figure. The figure that came out is in orange trunks with the stars on the crotch. This one is green. It's from a J.C. Penney catalog from like, I guess it's Christmas 90, maybe 91. It was like you get the regular ring that everyone had, and it was supposed to come with a bagged version of Hogan and Macho Man, but Macho Man was supposed to be different in this green. But then when you ordered it from J.C. Penney, you got it. It was the same fucking Macho Man. But I have the hand-painted prototype from that ad. And it's actually, that's the figure that really fucked me, because it really got me going down this rabbit hole of finding other unreleased prototype figures. So I blame you, Macho Man.
Does
up there in heaven, I blame you.
Does Chelsea have any issues with your figures in your collection?
No, I think she has issues when there's a bunch of packages to the door and she's like, are any of these for me? And I'm like, well, did you order anything? Because I didn't order anything for you. So unless you ordered something for yourself, these packages are all for me, babe.
Another quick question I had, because I was a big fan of it. I don't know if you guys are still doing it like Patreon exclusive or not, but have you guys continued the Figure Wrestling Federation you and Brian Myers are doing? Because I actually listen to that every Turmoil, all that stuff. You guys did the
Yes.
draft. I listen to that stuff every week. I love listening to your guys' booking and storyline ideas.
Yeah.
You did some crazy shit.
Yes.
The Undertaker came alive like 4 times. But
yeah, for those who don't know, during the pandemic, and this is something that we couldn't do in the real world because it took up so much time, and during the pandemic we had nothing but time. What we did was we created a new podcast called the Figure Wrestling Federation, where we fantasy booked like the Attitude Era and then used like the figures and did like figure photography. It was the nerdiest thing I've ever done in my life. It was also a lot of fun, but so many people enjoyed it. And we bring it back every once in a while on our Patreon just for like one-offs or little like bonus stuff. But we were legit booking segments of television and for months at a time. It was wild.
No, it was insane. And I felt like the little kid I was in the 90s and early 2000s where like you guys did your pay-per-views like exclusively on the Patreon. But there was that one dude that did reviews all the time. So I was like, people do review and see what happens. So I'm up to date.
It was a time that we'll never get back unless we get another pandemic, which I hope.
And I love the figure photography. Sometimes one of you would be late or not do it at all, but like just to get it, like the visuals of it was super cool.
Yes,
I was a big fan of that. Hopefully, when you guys get the time, you guys can bring it back. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that took up way too much time. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. I guess since we're talking about figures, the elephant in the room. You called me out on that article I wrote that one time for 1:37 p.m. That was totally bad and wrong. Can we just agree that I probably should not have written that article, and that's a hard task to deal with?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of like information like on the internet, and it's like, I don't blame people because like I'm a psycho, right? I call myself the Michael Jordan of wrestling for collecting. Like I am deep in this world. But like for instance, if you just go like on eBay and you type something in, people see a price and like, oh, this is worth this much. No, that is what someone is trying to get for it. You need to go like into the settings and go to sold listings and see like what it actually sold for. And then you really need to take like the average of like the past like 90 days, not the highest one, you know? But not everybody knows that. So I don't blame you at all.
No, 100%. And like honestly, like sometimes I get to choose what article I want to write, and then sometimes they give me a task, and like I think I'm like one of the 2 only wrestling writers they have, and I was like, I don't really collect figures. Like, oh, just do your research, check out other articles and stuff. I'm like,
well, that's the thing. A lot of the research that's been done is incorrect, and a lot of like the YouTube videos or articles. So I was just busting your balls. I don't really blame you.
No, I know. I just thought since we're talking, like, we might as well bring it up. We're talking. So it was a funny moment. And I think, it probably actually made you recognize me a bit more. And I was like, okay. But it was funny. And then we got Gary Vee in the mix, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, I don't know. I guess I didn't want to keep you for too long, so I'll ask you 2 more questions. One of the questions I want to ask you, because it was a really big moment in your career, and I just think now, since it's been a year and a few days, maybe a week or so since we've lost Scott Hall, how big of a moment was it? Like, what does it really mean to you now, knowing that he's no longer with us, that you won that Intercontinental Championship in 2016? You got to take that picture that was kind of a recreation of a childhood picture of yours with Razor Ramon Scott Hall. Like, looking back at it at this very particular moment, what does that mean to you?
Man, Razor Ramon was one of my favorites as a kid. I was at WrestleMania 10. I saw with my own eyes him climb the ladder and become the Intercontinental Champion. A few months later, maybe a year later, I took a picture with him as a fan, and he let me hold the Intercontinental title. So for all those years later, to not only also win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, but to take a picture with him and have him hold my title, no writer in Stamford, Connecticut wrote that story. You know, like that's real life. It's real. I have both those pictures in my office. One, the original with me holding his title, and then I have one where he's holding mine, and that one's actually autographed by Razor Ramon. So it's he was such a pivotal piece to not just my career but my life. So I'll always miss Scott Hall.
How many championships do you have right now? I know at least about 3.
Wow. I'm looking over here at my office floor. I got the Internet Championship, of course.
Yeah.
The Wrestling Showcase Championship, the Chris Jericho Oceanic Championship. Let's see here. We have the World Series Wrestling Championship. We have the ASW West Virginia Championship. Wow. I'm just winning so many titles. I mean, I'm just winning so many. And in my opinion,
Yeah.
I,
Go on.
I also think I'm the NWA Real World Champion because I never lost.
Oh, there you go. I also think you should have had a longer run with that GCW title because you were just a heat magnet.
You and me both, pal. But I don't have the pencil.
Yeah. There's another question I was gonna ask. Oh, because are you gonna be in LA this next week? Are you coming down, or what do we have
Fuck
to look forward
yes.
to?
Yes, I will be there. Thursday night, live major Wrestling for a Podcast show at the Bourbon Room. VIP sold out, still general admission. If you can't be in LA, it will be streaming on the Premier Streaming Network. I will be at all the sessions of WrestleCon. So that's Friday, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and then GCW Joey Janela Spring Break. I will be in action, but I have no idea who my opponent is. But I will.
Well, there you go.
I will be there, and I'm looking forward to WrestleCon. Always a lot of fun, and I'm hoping Chelsea Green gets on that WrestleMania card. I don't know how I'm going to watch it. I will find a way to watch it. I actually texted the Miz. I said, "Hey, can I get into your family like box you have just in case?" Because there's no way I would ever go backstage to WWE.
Yeah.
And there's also like I don't want to do like an Enzo Amore and wear a disguise in the crowd. So I got to figure something out. If she's on the card, I got to make sure I'm watching it live.
Yeah. I could probably tell you some ways if I see you next week at WrestleCon or something. Don't worry about it. Outside of that, very last question, just going back to how we started this conversation, now that we've talked a little bit of everything. You mentioned very briefly, like, at first you didn't know who Matt Cardona was when you left WWE. At this very particular moment, I'm gonna ask you right now, actually, like, who is Matt Cardona to you? Like, what is Matt Cardona? Who is he? And how would you describe him?
He's somebody who I use the term always ready. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just a hashtag. It's not just a lyric in my song or on my butt, on my gear. It's the way I live my life, the way I live my career. I think not everyone is going to be the chosen one. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But you need to take advantage of every opportunity presenting yourself. Not just in wrestling, whatever your career is, right? You always need to be ready to capitalize on that opportunity because you never know when it's going to happen. I feel like I am the ultimate opportunist when it comes to that. And I've made a career and a life out of being always ready. And listen, 2022 was, no matter how you define success, whether it be by accolades or by money or by happiness, I was the most successful I ever was in my career. Okay, but that was 2022. What are we going to do in 2023? Right. And of course, it's a little intimidating. What's next? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but some things just happen. Like I got that Indy God gear as a joke, a one-off thing, and it kind of blew up in the internet. I'm like, maybe I should kind of run with this,
Yeah.
Or like I was looking for a valet and I saw Steph Delander. I'm like, maybe I should kind of run with this. So you never know what's going to happen. That's why you got to be always ready. And I'm excited for 2023. We're still in March. It's early, and I'm excited to see what I accomplish. It's a challenge for me. How am I going to top 2023? We'll find out. Like I'm grateful for what I've accomplished in the past, but I'm not satisfied. I think that's okay. I think you can always strive for more. And once you reach a goal, make new ones, right? I think that's how we get better. I think that's how we grow. And listen, not everything I do is going to be a home run. A lot of times, both in WWE and on the Indies, I fall flat on my face. An idea I thought was so great hasn't worked. Fuck it, right? That's how you learn. That's how you grow. All I've ever wanted was an opportunity. And on this independent run, I'm making my own opportunities. And it's been a fucking blast. And let's see what happens. And maybe one day I'll go home and I'll be with Chelsea Green again. But for now, I'm the Indy God, the Deathmatch King, and I'm just collecting titles all over the place.
Yeah, it's incredible what you've been able to achieve since you left WWE and what you've built for yourself. And there was a point I was saying, like, there's not like a week that goes by where you don't hear like Matt Cardona did this or Matt Cardona did that, or Matt Cardona showed up over here. Like, so
that's the thing, and that's because the power of social media, right? I mean, that's because I'm flooding your fucking feed, right? Like I'm making sure whether you like me or not, you know what I'm doing, right? When I was the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion, whether you watched NWA or not, whether you liked me or not, everyone knew Matt Cardona was the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion. And that's what I want to do with whatever I do. If I'm doing a fucking independent show in Indianapolis, I'm going to make sure that I make that show as important as possible, because if I don't treat it as important, who the fuck else is going to treat it as important? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I live my life. This is how I make a living. Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, you're killing. It's a small, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sure there was a bunch of great matches on that cruise, on the Jericho cruise. It was probably a blast. I'm not even trying to blow smoke up your ass, but at the same time, the only thing I remember hearing is, "Oh, Matt Cardona won the title."
Right? And how ridiculous is that? Yeah. Matt Cardona won the Chris Jericho Oceanic Championship on the Jericho cruise. And yes, I'm going to treat that like I won the fucking IC title at Mania. Of course. Yeah. And if you don't like me for it, even better.
Yeah.
Even better. This isn't about this whole run, this whole independent run. I call it my Hollywood Hogan run. This isn't about, it's not about proving anybody wrong. Okay. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong. It's about trying to prove myself right, prove my fans right. If I get some supporters along the way, great. Glad to have you. But it's not about you. It's about me.
Yeah.
And if that's selfish, I don't give a fuck.
100%. And like you said, with your post, you're not saying you're the first to do it, but you've definitely made it on that list of guys that left the WWE, but just grew their career even more, rather than, you know, kind of falling to the wayside and not finding out how to kind of recover, recoup, and keep going and keep doing the thing, as the Macho Man would say. And I stole from him. But
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We went a little bit over 20 minutes. I apologize.
It's okay. It's all right. No big deal.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you. And we'll catch you guys all next time.
All right, we'll do it again soon. Well, not soon, but eventually.
eventually, we'll get there.
I gotta win some more titles first.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna ask you again how many times. Yeah, we'll see you all next time.
Great.
Ooh, yeah, dig it.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.